Yeah, that's different. Wow.
Yeah, because we want him to let us on Facebook.
I
And
agree.
we have to give
I'm
him
with
his,
you.
yeah.
I'm with you.
You know, the new techno gods.
If you say so.
I don't
I
know.
think you are one in disguise,
I
Ryan.
may be. I may be. There's a lot of things I am, but I don't think that's it. All right, we're going to record to the cloud. All right. Well, I just want to make sure that we're up on Facebook. Let's just make sure it caught, and it did. We're all set, and make sure that's down. It is.
Ready to rock
All
and
right.
roll.
Yeah, we're ready to rock and roll. Hey, it's not Whiskey Wednesday, but it's Tippling Tuesday, and we have actually a very special guest to It's the Liquor Talking, Dr. Rachel Barrie. Can anybody shut that off? I don't know. We got other people out there doing stuff. Dr. Rachel Barrie, who, okay, I got to admit, here we're a bit of a bunch of fanboys of yours because
Well, I'm a big fan of yours, Ryan.
okay. Well, that makes it that's sort of uncomfortable, but yes, because we've been following you for years and watching your progression across different different distilleries and doing some amazing work. And I think we should talk about that first because you've landed at, I think, probably one of the most coveted jobs out there as the master blender for Brown-Forman's Scottish lineup of single malts. And I couldn't think of anybody better to steward that whole endeavor.
Wow, thank you, Ryan. How lucky am I?
You are super
I
lucky.
am
But
so lucky. I have the best job in the world.
but it's-
Seriously.
but it's not really luck. It's people look and go, well, how did she do that? Oh, she lucked into it or whatever like that. It's not. It's been years and years of hard work getting to where you are. I mean, and the people that you've interacted with, Dr. Jim Swan.
Yeah.
Just
He was my mentor. He was the reason I got into whiskey.
really.
Absolutely. Because, when I graduated and I'd been kind of part of the Whiskey Society at Edinburgh University and set that up and had great fun and was a real whiskey hobbyist. But I had no idea you can get into whiskey at the time.
I can drink for a profession.
33
That's what I'm saying.
years ago,
Really?
that I was able to combine my hobby and passion with my very in-depth analytical knowledge of chemistry.
Yeah.
And, Jim Swan was the one. He gave me my first job. It was like the last day it was advertised, a job at the Scotch Whisky Research Institute. I happened to be cycling past Edinburgh University Career Service, and there was my absolute perfect job, my dream job. Never knew you could do it. Last day it was advertised. I applied. I got the job. The rest is history. And Dr. Jim Swan.
How did that go? I got to know this now. Now that you've brought this up, I got to know how you got to give me a breakdown because did he interview you?
He interviewed me, of course.
Yeah.
I reported directly into him.
That's
Dr.
awesome.
Jim Swan, and he was, one of the partners at the time when it was Pentland Scotch Whisky Research Institute back in the day. And he brought me in.
For those of you who
scientist.
maybe don't know, Dr. Jim Swan is a legend. Some of the most famous whiskeys from around the world, distilleries were sort of set up by Dr. Jim Swan.
Or he worked
with them to make it better. STR barrels are sort of his sort of thing.
So much. But when I was at Scotch Whisky Research with him, I worked on making the ideal bourbon cask for maturation. I analyzed wood using gas chromatography, mass spectrometry from all around the world, oak specifically, of course, because that's all we can use.
Right.
And I also worked on what was called the Harvey Sherrywood project in the early 90s, which was trying to sustain the quality of sherry casks at a time when sherry stopped being shipped into the UK. So we were like, where are we going to get casks from? Because they're keeping them all in Spain. So I worked on some really great projects with Jim, which I am continuing to build on today and use a lot of that knowledge actually that
so you sort of set the groundwork even way back then.
The groundwork way back then, early 1990s in particular. So 91 to 95.
So where do you go from there? So you're working with him. I mean, there can't be much better of an education in the whiskey business than with him, right?
Maturation, but also distillation, also sensory. This is the beautiful thing because a master blender's role is obviously so much about people, understanding sensory, so much about the science, understanding the technology, and obviously also, just being curious and, creating the future and understanding it better. And I got a tap on the shoulder and went to Glenmorangie.
Mm.
And at that point in time, Jim and I were working on a big project for Glenmorangie, analysing 10,000 casks from
Wow.
different warehouse positions. And I was brought in to set up the lab, the sensory panel, and the R&D side.
Okay.
Because it was obviously a private, family-owned
And
company at that point.
you left your mark there too. I mean, there's some products that are still out today that.
I mean, it's always a team effort.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
course,
I get
always
it.
a
I
team
get it.
effort. But probably what I spent most time was on Glenmorangie 10, and then also on the wood finishes. Signet is probably the one well, people will remember the most or know now, and then our beg when it came on stream with Ugadal and
Yeah.
Scory Vrecken.
And then from there, then on to, would it be Bowmore?
Bowmore, yeah, because
Yeah.
I was at Glenmorangie for 17 years.
Yeah.
So when I got
you're not really job hopping. It sounds like it is, but like she's like the Tom Brady of he's a football player. You might not know because they don't play real football. But anyways, he has like second and third careers. Like, I mean, you could actually break yourself. You would be have a very successful career if you did that. You have a very successful career if you did this. And then, but you stay there long periods of time and actually create
absolutely
a legacy at places. And then you're at Bowmore, and you've done some of my favorite whiskeys at Bowmore.
Well, it was an incredible journey. Obviously, working with the Japanese this time. I worked with your family company. Brown-Forman used to own 10%, at least 10% of Glenmorangie, for example. So I've kind of gone full circle, coming to Brown-Forman. So that's another story. But worked with the Japanese, so got to know about Japanese whiskey, and obviously with
what was their influence when you came on there and started working with the Japanese? Because my thought at the time, I remember a lot of people saying like, well, the Japanese are taking it over and they're going to change everything. I go, no, not really. They bought it for a reason. I think they're going to leave a lot of the innovation of that brand to the brand.
They were very hands off, which is probably why, obviously I worked on lots of different whiskies for Auchentoshan and Glengarry and Bowmore in particular, but probably why we got away with doing Bowmore Devil's Casks.
Yeah, if somebody had been overlooking that, they would have said no.
They were hands off. So that was fun. I had a wonderful fun time there for nearly 7 years. So yeah. So I wasn't job hopping, although I remember Angus at Whiskey Sponge did actually include me in one of his.
Oh, did he? That's the set that you've made it if you get made fun of a Whiskey Sponge, right?
Next. I was like, that's not fair. So yeah. He doesn't say it anymore because I've stayed a long time at companies. And then tap on the shoulder, Brown-Forman, and I was like, oh my God, I've got to come home because these 3 distilleries are where I was born and brought up. So obviously Glenmorangie is up in Tain, Ardbeg and Laphroaig and Bowmore, all on Islay, Auchentoshan and Glasgow, and then in the northeast was Glengarry. But these were really coming home because I was born about 5 minutes from Glendronach.
Nice.
My family home's still there.
And this is this brand too is like one of your dad's favorites.
Yeah, it's my dad's favorite. Yeah, we always have.
I can see why.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's just him in a bottle, basically. In terms of character, very just robust, resilient, everything. Benriach is up in Northern Speyside, and that's where I learned to glide as a teenager. And Glenglassaugh, it was such a beautiful place to grow up because, there was so much outdoor sport. I was always doing something outdoorsy. Either, tatty hiking, as we call it, which is picking potatoes back in the day. Near Glendronach on the farms, or picking the brambles from the fields. At Glenglassaugh, I learned to surf with my dad. And around Benriach, I was either mountain biking or learning to glide a plane. So over Benriach. So, we've got whiskies now for Brown-Forman that are from the Ben to the Glen to the sea.
There you go.
Every landscape, if you go anywhere in the world whiskey making, obviously you need the best quality of water. And, you want to be influenced either by the mountains, the valleys, or by the ocean. The only exception to that is obviously deserts where you can't make whiskey anyway.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, there's a couple of people trying that now too, and they're gonna have a hard time, I think. But and they do some really cool. Like the thing about it is, I think the Glendronach. I think I look at you as sort of the steward of Glendronach because it's so iconic in what it's always sort of done. and I think you've brought it to new heights. But that's sort of like it's so established. It's you got to play the field. You got to be very careful of what you do with that particular whiskey. But then I saw when you started the Benriach, I was really excited because they sort of set your task as like fix this and sort of put your own mark on it. This is really, I think, where you got to sort of like really sort of shine. And Glenglassaugh, we'll get to that, but I think with you really sort of like in your team and stuff like that really took that from sort of a forgotten product and really brought that to the forefront, I think. And
for Benriach,
yeah,
are we talking about?
Yeah, for Benriach.
I mean, Benriach, I mean, it was wonderful coming to Benriach because, you know, you've kind of got, it's like all distilleries under one roof, you know,
Right.
and meaning by that is, you know, over the years there have been three styles of distilling, you know, the classic style, fruit forward, we have our smoky style, and we've also got 1 week, 2 weeks of triple distilled every year. So what an array of
Right.
distillation to play with. And this isn't new. This has been something that's been happening a while. So it's just making it shine, as you say.
Yeah.
And then similarly, incredible range of casks, which I've just kind of honed and continued experimenting. So there's a lot more in the pipeline. There's a lot of exciting things ahead.
That's great.
But, you know, take it to the world in a way that really celebrates the beauty of Speyside, because for me, Benriach is Speyside in a glass. If ever you could say, I mean, there's a lot of Speyside whiskies, as we know, that
Right.
you know, over 50 distilleries. But for me, Benriach is just in that sweet spot between the sea and between the mountains, in that incredible expansive area. For anyone who's been to Benriach, you'll know what I'm talking about. You know, there's an incredible expanse of Benriach, incredible clarity in the air, and we get 40 days more sunshine than the rest of Scotland because it's in that.
You pump it, you pipe it in, or does it have to use reflectors to do that or anything like that?
It's Mr. Blue Sky.
Mr. Blue Sky,
It's
yeah. It's a
always
little
shining
yellow,
down.
little yellow.
Yeah,
Hey,
always
Johnny,
shining down.
Johnny, which is our first one? Ah, see, John knew. Johnny
yeah,
you've met Johnny on the spot, right? This is Johnny on the spot.
Johnny on the spot.
So I think everybody else in the audience, we have a little studio audience. We were very happy that you could come out here in the afternoon and start drinking with us on Tuesday. So
And I'm so delighted, and I'm amazed and delighted. And do you know how much I love a surprise? I like to
That's
surprise
right.
others, but I thank God you've surprised me today, because I love these glasses for whiskey. I've been saying this for many years, for the appreciation to really kind of sit back and enjoy single malt. I use a wine glass at home. At work, I use a Glencairn glass, I must say,
Right.
because that's quality.
because you want to
control.
you're trying to keep it consistent every
You
single
are, and
time,
it's
right?
quality control.
Right.
So it works for quality control purposes the best, and it takes up less space than these great big wine glasses. But at home, I'm just amazed. Wine glasses, you know, why people don't, you know, because we've got so much flavor in single malt, you know, to be discovered, and wine glasses do it really well. So thank you. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, I love it. These
Nice.
are good
It's
glasses.
good glasses, aren't they?
These are good glasses. I was going to give it a nose first.
I am. Oh, I'm going to give it those.
And I love how you
nice.
can see the beautiful, beautiful necklace, as you always can, with Benriach.
That nose is amazing.
Gosh, are you in the
Honeysuckle
orchard?
to citrus to
But in
apple,
the
little,
orchard?
yeah, a little
Are you-
apple and like pear.
Yeah, are you in the orchard?
Yeah.
You know, the beauty, if you go to, has anybody been to Benriach?
Yeah.
You know, it's beautiful. You know, the name, there's so many different meanings for Benriach, but first and foremost, Ben. How many Bens are there? There's probably somebody in the room called Ben. How many Bens are there in Scotland? Very, very few. So we've
Yeah.
got 150 distilleries in Scotland, and usually people can name like one or two others. So if you think out of 150, if you say Glen, you're going to get like, okay,
Couple of those. Right?
there's another 30, and there's another 30, and there's whatever. There's loads of Glens, but there's very few Bens, and this is something which I really draw attention to, because Ben for me is, you know, it's like climbing the hills, you know?
Right.
You get to the top and you keep climbing another
Pinnacle.
one. And you have to climb another one.
Yeah.
And you never reach nirvana. You're always trying. It's the endeavor.
It's the
And
journey.
It's the journey. And that's what Benriach is about. Because for me, with all the eclectic cast, experimentation, it's like I'm driven with a vision to create something different, to create something new, and to really bring to life this incredible fountain of fruit. I can only describe it like that. What do you think is a bubbler? Is that right?
Well, no, it wouldn't be.
Here in Boston, isn't it
In
called a
Boston, we do call a water fountain a bubbler.
This is a fruit
A
bubbler.
fruit bubbler. That I'll go with. I like this. The nose on this is incredible.
So here we have a fruit bubbler, and bubbler is a good thing to talk about the water actually, because our water, we don't get that much rain
Okay.
at Benriach. That's why I say always Mr. Blue Sky. But the water is from an underground lake, goes through red sandstone and also through a little bit of limestone, but not too much. So it's quite mineral rich, and being underground, it bubbles up into the distillery like a fountain from the
Really?
underground lake. So that's why,
That's nice.
it's
It is a bubbler.
It's a bubbler.
It's a bubbler.
And this is a
Oh,
fruit
we're
bubbler.
going to say it properly. Bubbler.
Blah blah. See, I've just coined that phrase. I learned something about Boston yesterday. I learned the word bubbler, and I thought that's Benriach in Boston is a fruit bubbler.
Well, I'll give you another one. A really good compliment when you drink something and you have something that's actually really good. In New England, we only use negatives, so that's not bad. That's not bad.
That's not bad.
That's not
I get
bad.
that.
Yeah.
I think we say something. Well, in the northeast of Scotland, we'd say that's no bad. Okay.
I know. Is it good?
But yeah, when it really opens up, doesn't it? It's such a beautiful, beautiful fountain of fruit. The orchard fruits, the apples, the pears, but it's always in balance with the malt, which is always creamy, like a phyllo pastry. This is why it's beautiful with, bakery desserts.
Oh, yeah.
Desserts,
Yeah.
lovely with the Danish pastry, with all that juicy apple and the pastry, the croissant.
Super long finish on that.
Oh,
That's really, really
hungry.
good. That's good.
I'm getting hungry. Don't know
Well,
about
I haven't
you.
dinner tonight, so
Slanjava.
that's Slanjava. What did you guys think? You like that one? Is one of your favorites, Johnny? Johnny, you get Johnny. They're all.
Thank you,
I'm going to let you
Johnny.
know they're all Johnny's favorites.
But this, for me, this is my birthday jam. So my birthday's in April.
Mine is too.
Ah,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, the 5th.
Yeah, mine's a little later.
No, that's okay.
Mine's a little later in April. But anyway, usually in April, it's when my garden is in full bloom. And at the
Nice.
distillery, the cherry blossom and we've got a very diverse landscape at Benriach. It's, part of Riach can mean many different things. It means kind of brindled or stripy or different facets, very multifaceted. Also means reach in some languages. So I would say reach for the Ben.
Reach.
Reach
Okay.
for the hill. Benriach, reach for the hill.
Reach for it.
And
I love that.
there's something about the clarity of Speyside. I think this is arguably the most authentic Speyside because it has that clarity, it has the beauty, it has the variety, it has the perfect balance between the fountain of fruit, the beautiful softness of the malt, a little bit of honey, but not too much, and the oak. Benriach loves to play with oak.
This is a very, very well balanced whiskey.
I've not even talked about the wood yet.
Yeah.
But most of it is actually first fill bourbon.
Yeah.
So you're going to get the vanilla and the apples and the creaminess coming through. A little bit of sherry, but just enough to kind of caramelize it and bring out the honey. And then just a dash of virgin oak, which gives it a little bit of spice and just gives it that liveliness.
Plays on
that
the
makes it
tongue a little bit. Yeah.
just on your tongue like a starburst.
This is the whole thing. It's a liquid to lips sort of experience. You have to try some of these things to really to appreciate them.
Yeah.
And to go. And I think that we do a lot here at the store. We try to have open bottles so people can try before they buy. And that's really, this is how we sell more whiskey. This is how we get people to buy stuff because they already know the answer. They know how good it is. Because that is the thing when you're trying to introduce somebody to a new brand and they only know the stodgy old brands and they don't know all this other great stuff that's out there. And you have to sort of get them to try it. And once they do, it opens up a whole new world for them.
I mean, yeah, that's it. This is like, you dip your nose in, it's like, it's delicious. It's delectable. It's always a delight. That's Benriach. Always a delight.
I like that.
Always a delight.
All right, Johnny, what do you got? What's the second one? Oh.
Ooh. Okay.
Benriach 16.
Yeah.
Oh, Johnny's like really giving us other lines of stuff.
Obviously.
Oh.
Obviously, with Benriach, we do the smoky whiskey, and we're one of the only distillery in Speyside going back in time that sustained the use of peat. Now, before 1975, all distilleries would have had an element of peat in them.
Because
So
that was just the way you did things.
that was the fuel that
That
was
was the fuel.
available.
That was that's not many trees, but there's plenty of
Yeah,
peat.
and also distilleries were smaller until
Mhm.
the mid 70s, and generally the whole industry kind of burgeoned in the 70s, and some of the big distilleries built more stills, etc. And their own maltings couldn't couldn't sustain it. So they built commercial maltings,
Okay.
which were then fueled by the North Sea gas that for the first time in 75,
Right.
came in and could fuel it. And it meant that you could dry without drying over peat. So the majority of Speyside and also the Highlands switched to not having any peat in 1975. However, Benriach continued to produce peated batches. It was the only distillery that continued doing that through the 70s, right through till the present day. So
Benriach, when they do that though, are they what type of peat are they using to
it's Highland peat.
it's a Highland peat. So
So,
it's a different composition than what you were used to, like let's say when you were down and doing Ardbeg or something like that.
oh
right?
yeah, I mean Isle of Peat, is particularly how do I say it? It's more medicinal.
Just look at how to say it nicely for some really weird. Yeah, no, it's
To me,
different. It is.
it's more
It
medicinal.
is. It's got that
People love that.
iodine. It's got that iodine.
Some people love the really, really intense, iodine, a little bit of sarsaparilla, and that's me being really kind. And less kind is what, some distilleries say about themselves.
Yeah.
That's like seagulls' armpits.
Yeah. Well,
that's
listen, they
been
use it as a
used.
slogan. How bad could it be, right?
Exactly. And obviously at least, 70, 80% of the population, probably higher, will not like it. They're not going to like it.
Right.
It's a very small percentage.
It's usually when you it usually ends up being part of your journey. If you drink whiskey long enough, I always find it's like it ends up being part of what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's usually not where you start your journey.
Some do.
Some do, but most of the time. And well, we always a lot of times have to fight because some people say you really need to try this whiskey and it's a heavily peated whiskey, and they go, I don't like whiskey, and you go like, well, you've tried them all. And they're like, what? No, I haven't. I said, well, there's something for everybody in the world of whiskey. There's something for everybody, but in particular, if you're starting off with a heavy peated sort of on that iodine range, you can be turned off more people would be turned off than turned on.
Absolutely.
So
and
I think it's
much
important.
less, market for it as well. But with Benriach, what I love is the fact that it's always more sweetie than peaty. Can everyone say that? It's always
more sweetie than peaty. So we call it sweet peat.
We call it sweet peat. And that's because we don't change the distillation. With some smoky distilleries, they're going in the foreshots in distillation, they're going deep into it. They're starting off at 45 minutes into the distillation, then they're going deep into the faints of that spirit.
Right, to really grab all of that phenols and stuff.
It gives a heaviness that's particularly, how do I put it, fatty in some ways. Whereas with Benriach, we don't actually change the distillation. So when we do the smoke season, it means we're still 13 minutes, which is our foreshots, and quite short, and then into the distillation. And it means we still get the apples and pears, the oranges, the lemons, a little bit of spice, a little bit of nuttiness, as well as the smoke, which is really, really sweet.
Yeah.
Because the peat comes from the Caledonian forest, which is predominantly wood rather than decaying seaweed.
Okay.
And what that means is we get a sweetness. You almost get vanilla when the peat is burned, as well as the more phenolic characters. So I love Benriach smoke, especially like around Halloween, because it's like smoky candy.
Yeah.
Or barbecue, or smoky barbecue.
I like barbecue.
Really
definitely sort of hits it on the mark. That sweet, but that smoke, that sweet, and you get that nice balance of both. That's barbecue.
Yeah. Wonderful. But this with the 16-year-old, it's a very small percentage of peat in here. It's only relatively speaking, it's about 10%. So 10% of our peated stock. We tend to distill our peated stock with very high ppm, 50 ppm malt. But again, because of the distillation, it means we're getting
But that would be pretty still. Oh, thank you, John. That would still be sort of a high phenol content for most other distilleries.
Absolutely, but
it's the type of peat and how you're doing the cut.
It's sweet and how you're doing the cut, and also because Benriach is very, 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 very fruit forward as a distillery. It's got that orchard of fruit, and that's what makes the difference.
Okay, we're getting two.
So with this is 16 years old. So I'm only just bringing in. This is where I get to paint with flavor. it feels like painting, you know,
Right.
it's quite intuitive. It's
You're
very
making a big picture
sensorial.
of all these nice.
It's very sensorial, and obviously I get to play with the distillery style and also with the casks. So with the 16 years old, it's you know, mostly bourbon. It's got more sherry maturation than in the 10-year-old. It's got more virgin oak. So it's like the 10-year-old plus, you know, it's much more intense. And then it's also got the peat as well. So it's
Let me
more
ask
than-
them, who doesn't like peat? Generally, there's a couple of you out there. I know there is. I know which one. I'm looking at you, Frank. But what do you guys think of this? Have you tried it? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
You love it, right?
yeah.
It's that right amount, right? It's not over the top. It's very harmonious. It
That's
works
because
together, right?
it's more sweety than peaty, and it just really keeps that, you know, sweetness in the whiskey.
The triple distillation you want to
Yeah,
say
it was
about.
very small volume, and I hate to say it, but the volume goes into our travel retail expression at the moment. At the moment, however, we do have
For
a small
Massachusetts,
number,
we have no, I'm sorry.
small number of single cask triple distilled that we will release as Benriach single cask. So
Nice.
watch this space, because they will appear. So again, it's giving the consumer who loves their single cask an opportunity to
Right.
try the different styles. You know, because we have casks that are classic style, 100% peated. Obviously, it's single cask. You're only going to get the full distillate, and then the triple distilled as well. So that's the chance to try it. But it becomes more slightly more citrusy, more orangey. It's got kind of less of that the malt cereal element, slightly less than nuttiness, but it dials up the fruit. But this 16-year-old, oh my goodness, it's got more
fantastic.
oiliness on the side of the glass.
Yeah.
That's showing its age, more sherry, a little bit more peat. But this is a beautiful whiskey that when you're in Speyside, when you're at Benriach, because most of Speyside actually doesn't have barley growing because it's got lots of rocks.
Yes.
And it's really, really cold. Barley grows in Scotland on the east coast of Scotland, and it tends to be fairly close to the sea. And then we have all the, you know, generally a lot more peat on the west coast. So, you know, it pretty much fits our geography and our different rainfall as well. But this whiskey reminds me of harvest time, you know, in Speyside, because it has that beautiful harvest smell.
It's
It's a
always.
bit nutty, malty.
Do you know Robin?
honey.
Do you know Robin Robinson?
Yeah, I know Robin.
So this
He
is
loves his food. He's so good with food.
But we always have this, well, not an argument. We talk about terroir, but I think this is more of Provence. It's the time and the place with this whiskey, and like you could only sort of make this whiskey where you are. This
You
type of
can.
whiskey.
I would say that for every whiskey, to be honest.
No, that's what I
because,
mean.
you
For
know,
every whiskey,
Yeah.
it has its play. It's tied to its place.
It
shape
is.
of the stills, everything
is.
around it.
And a lot of it's to do with the atmosphere. And of course, it's the things, the invisible things we cannot see
Right.
that have an influence that are almost difficult to perceive. And if you're a scientist like me, it's like, nonsense. But actually,
It does.
it does.
There's
Yeah.
some magic involved, right?
Definitely a lot of magic. I haven't tasted this yet. Did you have
All
a
right.
taste?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I've
Yeah,
been
so lots of
enjoying it. You're lucky to have it.
tea. You know, it's it reminds
That
me of
peatiness, that
yeah.
smokiness just adds another element. It's not it's not the here's what I like to say. It's salt on a steak.
Yeah.
It adds it makes the whole thing a little bit better.
Yeah,
Right? But it's
malty,
not the whole
fuller.
meal. But
No,
it's not
no,
the
no.
meal.
It's fuller. It's got a longer finish.
Yeah.
It's a bit more nutty. It's got a little bit more cereal actually in it
Yeah.
as well. You know, really, really wonderful and almost crunchy.
There you go. Well, I don't want crunch in my whiskey. That's the only thing I don't want.
Yeah, a crunchy maybe. Do you get crunchies here?
No, I
Like
don't
the
think so.
honeycomb
Oh yeah.
with the
Okay.
chocolate on the outside, a bit like a crunchy bar.
I don't think you guys get that? Do you guys have that? Imports. Okay. They have to import it, I guess. I have not had that one.
Honeycomb with chocolate
Honeycomb
around
with
the
chocolate.
outside.
That sounds good.
Mm.
All right, Johnny, what's up? What do we have next? Okay.
Ooh,
We
such
have some chocolate.
good
Johnny gave us some
idea.
chocolate.
I love this so much. You read my mind.
So this is the
Chocolate
12?
Glendronach. Wow. Well, for those of you who don't know, Glendronach, obviously, it's actually quite a distance from Benriach. Benriach's about 50 miles from Glendronach, or
And
vice
not in a
versa.
straight line, because there are no straight lines in
No,
Scotland.
there's no straight lines, and you have to go over the
Yeah.
mountains, and you'll probably get caught in snow a bit like here. But we've really bad roads. And then you get to Glendronach, where I was born, 5 minutes from here, and you're in the middle of the best agricultural farmland in Scotland, without a doubt. We have the most Aberdeen Angus cattle. We have, the best dairy, the best vegetables. There's incredible richness and fertile landscape. And I don't know if that's why. Who knows? Who knows? But deep down in the Valley of Forg, which, is where Glendronach is, it means Valley of the Brambles. Very, very rich. Still has brambles growing there. And I used to pick them as a child. Wanted to get paid for them, but of course I ate them all before I could get any money. So ended up looking like the girl from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah, with a pop. Yeah.
And it's such a rich, and what I love about Glendronach is it's so distinctive because there's only two other distilleries kind of nearby out of 150 in Scotland, and they're all very different. And Glendronach, I would say, is the truest, most traditional Highland, and I say that as a Highlander. With it's my dad's favorite whiskey, and the character of the people is very stoic.
Yeah.
It's very, very serious and hardworking.
They're farmers.
They're farmers. They're hardworking.
Yeah, farmers.
They're very
Yeah.
hardworking.
We have that around New England.
Yeah, land. They have they have our farmers have a lot of money because they have best farmland, and they have character. They're very resilient.
Right.
Very strong, very, very strong in character. And I think that really, really, really shines through with Glendronach, and it's robust Highland style. And then obviously I get to master the art of sherry cask maturation, which under my watch, I'm bringing an element of flair, shall we say, to Glendronach through the sherry casks.
Right.
So it's almost taken it out of the valley, that stoic character, and it's giving it that flair, that flamboyance that means
Stoic character with a nice hat.
Yeah, with a colorful hat.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely, with a well-tailored suit.
There you go.
That is then on the stage and in theatre. And we have most castles in Scotland around Glendronach as well.
Really?
It's castle country. Yeah.
A lot of castles.
A lot of castles. Anyway, there's a little bit of history. 1826, it's going to be 200 years. We're approaching our 200th anniversary next year. So if you haven't been, you have to come next year. But we'll also have some exciting new whiskey as well in the next year as we approach our 200-year anniversary. And we have this elegant new design that you can see here.
We like it because it has your name on the front.
Oh, you're too kind. I love it because it kind of tells the story of the whiskey, because it's got 4 facets on the base of the bottle. It's almost like a crystal glass, a tumbler you would hold. And these are the 4 facets of flavor that I think are in perfect balance and perfect symphony and synchronicity in the 12 years old. So they are the robust, the stoic character. They are the rich fruitiness from the Valley of the Brambles. They are the elegance that you get from the Spanish oak as well as it matures, and also the full body. That's going to mean that you're going to get a long and strong mouthfeel.
How do you guys like who drinks Glendronach on a normal basis, right? I know
everyone.
It's really good. It's really good. You know what? It's one of those type of things that we have a lot of people that come into to Whiskey Row and they're looking for something, and it's one of those things that you want to tell everybody about, but you really don't want to tell everybody about. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like our little treasure, and if you know, you know.
I love that.
You know.
The nose knows.
The nose knows. That's right, exactly. And it's got that. First of all, talk about nose. The nose of this is just all up, and it's already it already preludes that it's gonna be rich. The nose does. I think when you smell this, you go, I already know this is going to be a very rich whiskey.
Yeah, this has got even more texture than Benriach on the sides of the glass. And, it is a heavier spirit. We've got wooden...
Squattier stills?
Yeah, slightly. We've got wooden washbacks and we ferment as well. And our stills, I coined this when I started, our wash stills are like saxophones. mainly because I play the saxophone. But in addition to that, they've kind of got a boil ball, and then they're your average height, and
Yeah.
then they've got a gooseneck at the top that's a little bit the top of a saxophone.
Okay.
You know?
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
And this means that we get a
Gooseneck,
robust
like, right?
gooseneck,
Gooseneck,
yeah.
yeah,
So
gooseneck.
it's robust, but it's also fruity. So you've got a bit of reflux, and you've got the oils coming over. You've got all of that wonderful thing happening, and then the spirit of the till is remarkably mellow. And this is very unusual. It's remarkably mellow. It has dark fruit, even off the still. It's a little bit vinous. How did that be? We don't add any vines. And then into this kind of hint of almost like chocolate malt. It's remarkable because we don't use chocolate malt, but it seems to get that character, which gives it body, and then into this little touch of tobacco, but no more. A touch of leather.
It's really good. I like this one.
So when you nose
How
this,
about this? That was beautiful the way you said that. I really like this one. That's my tasting notes.
I love it. I love that you like it, Ryan.
I do.
So this is Glendronach again.
If you wanted to do chocolate with this, it
Yeah.
would be the
The
milk.
wine glass is
right?
great. If you heat this up in your hand, Glendronach works really well like a red wine. Okay, because it's got the texture of the still, it's got the tannins from the Spanish oak. You know, it's really going to deliver on the palate and some. It's going to give you a richly rewarded taste. It's going to exceed your or raise your expectations, shall we say? So I always, you know, if you can wait long enough, I'm going to leave some of my glass and come back to it and see how it's changed.
Oh, they've already
But,
drank it all. They're not leaving anything
so
in their
when you
glasses, so don't
hold
worry
it,
about
you
that.
can heat up in your hand. You know, for me, this is the perfect sour for Glendronach. I verge towards Benriach 10, more in the spring. I would say more in the harvest time to Ben 16. And then 12-year-old, of course, it's great every day. But this is the one at the end of the day, kick your shoes off, sink into your chair and just relax. But for me, this is getting into, you know, the kind of winter.
A thinking person's whiskey, though, too. There's a lot of depth in there.
You're right. A thinking person. It's great for Boston. I hear there's a lot of thinkers here.
Not a lot of doers, but thinkers, yes. Yes.
But yeah, it's a contemplative jam, you know, whereas maybe Benriach 10, you can say, oh, I'm going to get up and dance. And with Glendronach 12, I'm going to go, oh, I'm going to sit down and put my feet up and kick my shoes off, you know.
Read a book,
chill out.
you know, really enjoy it,
exactly.
sit by a fire, that
Oh
type
gosh,
of thing.
see, I'm glad I haven't tasted mine yet because it's actually really opened up now that I keep going back to it.
It's changing as
It's
every time I drink it.
You get
I
more
don't think
and
John gave me enough because it keeps changing.
You get more brambles. I mean, people get different things. There's so much going on in the glass.
Yeah.
You know, it's matured in predominantly Pedro Jimenez cast, also some Oloroso, and of course that's the fine, delicate balancing act I have. Spend most of my time with this whiskey of all the whiskeys we make. It's a flagship whiskey, and it works great with this milk chocolate.
Yeah, the milk chocolate, I believe, is the milk chocolate.
I'm going to nose and then taste and then try the chocolate and then go back to the tasting.
Okay. You can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're the boss
It's
today.
my
Go right ahead. Yeah.
If it's in your glass, you don't have to do what I do. You can do whatever you want to. That's allowed.
Just don't put the milk chocolate in the glass.
Although I think that would work.
It would work. It would work. Frank's already done it. Frank's already done it. He's trying to dig the thing. It's like trying to get the cherry out of the glass. It's good.
This is a whiskey that makes me just stop and think about the texture. I think more than anything, it's the texture and how mellow and smooth it is, but with that sherry crescendo that appears unexpectedly on your palate. Almost like the warmth of gingerbread, you know. First of all, you know, it's got the chocolate, it's setting your expectations. Then you get this gingerbread, and then it lingers into this long and strong, nutty, gingery finish, just with a little bit of chocolate coating on the outside.
Yeah, I just don't. The finish on this is so incredible. I mean, I'm still tasting it. The finish on this is incredibly
long.
long.
Sign, I think, of the very, very best of anything. So, you know, if any of you are wine drinkers as well, I always look at the finish. For me, that as a judge, as a spirit judge, I always look at the finish because for me, that is the sign of the very best. It's what you're left with on your palate. And
quick finish to leave you hanging.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? I got to drink more because now I want to get back.
So,
this is more like.
I like to think of Glendronach, you know, like a symphony. You know, it has this overture at the start when you're nosing. It then has, in the middle, it has the crescendo. And then it has the grand finale as it lingers.
That's not bad. I like that one.
Chocolate. I'm going to eat
try the chocolate. Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to chat along.
Yeah, I'll chat while you're eating. How's that? Johnny, what do we get for the next one? No, just what's 18? You gave us Glendronach 18? Oh, man. Thanks, Don. Everybody give Don a big hand. Thanks, Don. We drink all of Don's whiskeys today. Thank you, Don. She may make it, but Don pays for it, which is even better. Yes.
I need a moment.
Yeah. She needs to be alone now.
You should really leave me alone. Chocolate and Glendronach 12. Oh my God, this is heaven. Match made in heaven.
Yeah, no,
If
it's
ever there was
delicious.
one.
It's very good.
Mm.
We do have at our house, we do have a bowl of like Ghirardelli chocolates that never go to waste. And it's usually while we're drinking whiskey, you know?
But you can't, this is the best whiskey with this particular chocolate, with the lint.
The lint.
Oh, amazing. Amazing.
Now, I didn't have any because I'm allergic to peanuts and tree nuts. So I have to be careful of the chocolate that I do eat. So, but everybody tells me the lint one's very, very good.
That is so, so beautiful.
I like that. And then look at the color on this.
We really need to take our time with this because this has been in the warehouse, for 18 years plus.
Right.
Okay.
When you blend, I know 18 represents the lowest number of whiskey that you used. But can you give us sort of an idea of when you're putting this together, sort of the components that make this up? I'm sure it's not all 18.
No, I can't tell you. I'd have to kill you.
Well,
no,
I might go. Wait a minute. I might go for that. I might go for that.
No, I mean Glendronach. Many distilleries. Obviously, we did have a gap. The conductors or the people who are interested will probably have known this. Between 1996 2002, it was closed, and then previous owners obviously opened it up again, but didn't distill that much. So right up until 2012, actually, there was more and more each year, but not really enough to really go make a song and dance and tell the whole world about it. Which is why our whiskies have been on allocation. For anyone who knows, and you don't get very much of this. But in respect to the 12-year-old, it was really 2012 that we distilled a little bit more. And what that meant was last year we were able to do the rebrand, really start talking about it more, start selling more of it because there was that wee step up. So what we released to the world, about 60% of it is our flagship 12-year-old, which I know, Ryan, as we've discussed, you know and love.
Yep.
So everyone who loves it, I think was a lot of people in the room. Fantastic. It's no longer an allocation. You'll be glad to hear. However, when we look at the 18 years old and to a lesser degree the 15, we've got less whiskey because it wasn't distilled as much.
And the 15, we're not tasting the 15 right now, but the 15 is one of my other guilty indulgences when we can get it. And we do have some in right now, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really quite full-bodied. And it's also very elegant. So it's an elegance to it. It's a swathe of silk velvet. Sorry, guys, we're not tasting it today, but please buy a bottle. Try it for yourself. And then the 18 years old, we're getting into the Oloroso style big time. So this is all Oloroso, which tends to be, it's obviously all Spanish oak. That's what what I select. It costs more money. So because we use Spanish oak, it's much more expensive. It's very, very rare. It's toasted. It gives us a lot more oils, a lot more tannins, a lot more complexity, and a lot more top notes as well. And with the 18-year-old, it's 46% alcohol. So we're going up in strength from 43 to 46.
Would this not be chill filtered? Not chill filtered?
Well, do you know what? I'm not even going there because the thing is there's no definition for chill filtration. Okay. So it's a little bit, it's very ambiguous. And I would have to say that, you could put non-chill filtered on the label and it'd still be chilled. So we don't have it on the label.
No, that's fine. I'm just asking because we hit that.
Filtered. It's very gently filtered and absolutely.
When you do 92, that's what thing.
Please do compare any old and new, and you will see they both go cloudy. So you can make that judgment for yourself. So moving on to 18. All our whiskies, I don't know if I mentioned this yet, they're all natural cask and party colour. For Benriach, for Glendronach, and for Glenglassaugh. Now, this is extremely rare. Obviously, some of the smaller companies do that. Very few of the bigger companies do that. And the majority of the bigger companies who sell whiskey, apart from one or two, Unless it says natural cask imparted color or natural color on the label, it probably has E150A added.
No,
We are allowed to do that, but if they're not, if it
You're
doesn't
kidding
say
me.
that, if it doesn't say that, they probably do. So, which is why we make a point of putting
Right.
natural color on, just because we want it to be perfectly clear.
When I open
no
up-
ambiguity there.
when I show somebody, I have to tell you this because when I'm like when I pull out the 12 or the 15, especially the 15, I pull the bottle out of the box or out of the tin, and I show someone. They go, "Look at that," and they're like, "Wow, that's." I go, "That's all natural color. That's all come from the barrels. That's all come from the maturation of this whiskey. There's nothing added to this to make it look like that." I mean, just a color is just one component, but I just got to tell you, I think it sings when you say that because it's just
It's so
it's nice. It is important.
because having worked for other companies, I'm not going to say which. Well, you kind of know, but I'm not going to say which one. You could, get away with not really knowing what the casks are like, and then it being vatted and just getting the same color from the caramel. So,
Right.
what I have to do makes my job really hard, but it makes it so much better as well, because it means that I analyze a lot more casks and I
Right.
get to know the casks in a lot more detail. And then when I come to combine them, in each batch was about 70.
How many
casks.
casks do you taste a day?
It
Just out of
varies a
just-
lot.
But like if you're going in, you say, today I got to taste casks. What do you like?
I mean,
what
it could be a
typical-
couple of hundred.
Really?
It could be 50. It depends what I'm doing. It depends on the project. It depends on the product focus. Up till now, I've analyzed probably about 160, 170,000 casks in my lifetime.
I mean, this is your profession. This is what you do. Yeah, John's giving you a standing O. But like, is that you're a professional? You sort of know where your sort of limits are when you're getting like a palate fatigue, and you're way above the natural sort of the average sort of taster of whiskey. But is there a time when you just like other days when you just go, I just can't do this today because I know I'm off today? Or
No.
you ever get that?
Well, yes and no. I mean, 90% of what I do is on the nose anyway. So the
Right.
nose knows.
Yeah, the nose
As we
knows,
said,
yeah.
the nose knows. But then where I'm writing tasting notes or indeed the final quality check, I will taste. Absolutely. But there are days that I do trust my nose because it tells me everything. It tells me 90% of what I need to know. So, I don't need to drink. I do taste with
Right.
spittoon, etc. So
Right.
yeah, like wine.
Like wine. Yep.
Very, very similar to enologist and wine in that way.
I always have funny because I've taken people on barrel picks and stuff that we've done, and people just go, they just start drinking. They go like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I do wine tastings all the time," and I'm like, "This ain't wine." I mean, you're dealing with cask strength whiskey, and no matter where it's from, you're dealing with cask strength whiskey. You have to respect that there's alcohol in there, and you gotta, we don't have a problem going through 30 or 40 and walking away because we're not tasting everything, like you said. You can't, like you can tell the person that is not used to that, they'll come out and they're like, I need to take a nap now,
But the thing is, not everybody realizes as well that from a purely sensorial quality, analytical perspective, 90% of the flavor when you taste is actually because of your nose.
Right.
So, the olfactory epithelium at the top of your nose, it does a great job when you're nosing, and then when you taste it, just amplifies that because
it's right there.
It warms up on your tongue, and then you get the retronasal effect, which is up
The exhaust.
tongue to your nose.
Yeah.
And it just amplifies everything. But you're pretty much getting the same aromas. They might change a little bit on taste, but your nose could do a great job. Great job for you.
I just took a sip of this, and I'm going to give you my tasting note on this. And my tasting note is more. It tastes like more. And what that means is I want more because it's just this is so rich and so good. It's like, how do you stop?
More-ish.
More-ish. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
How do you stop drinking this?
You sip and savor. You sip and savor. But you are savoring.
John gave me more.
But this is
why I like Johnny.
But you're sipping and savoring.
Yeah, you are.
You're appreciating. You're not downing it. You're taking your time.
I have a cousin that likes to get to the point, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, but you're taking your time. This is 18
I'm not
years. So I'm sure this before, but for every year it's maturing, you want to hold it in your mouth for at least a second. So for 18 years, you want to take at least 18 seconds to really kind of swirl it around, to taste it, etc., and to really appreciate its appreciate its full glory.
That's right.
Let's see. And I've not even noticed and tasted it. But my goodness, I swallowed this just a few minutes ago, and obviously I've swallowed the rest.
It's still
But
it's still
the
tearing.
pearls,
Yeah.
the tears are so huge. The drops, they're like giant pearls. You know, giant pearl just dropping down
Beautiful.
from that necklace. The
I can see him.
color,
Let's put it this way. I can see him from here.
it's huge.
It's
You know, the
amazing.
oiliness, you know, the texture, you know, this is going to have a lovely mouthfeel just by looking at it.
And that's why the finish is so long too.
Absolutely. I mean,
Just
this is
lingering.
my, I have to say, this is my dad's favorite jam. This is our whiskey
He's got good taste.
for Hogmanay, for the holidays, you know, when it's Baltic, cold outside. Not that it ever gets as cold as here, but it means it's going to be really good for here. So
That's good.
usually when I taste this, usually I'm at the top of Carlton Hill in Edinburgh looking over the Edinburgh Castle with the fireworks going off. And I'm a wee
Nice.
dram of 18 years old and I'm with my dad or, you know, family.
That's
and
beautiful. I like
friends.
that.
Oh my
This
goodness.
is so good.
It's so rich. Definitely rich is the word that more rich. So intense in sherry, but so integrated. It's like fruit cake. It's like muscovado sugar. There's just so much going on in there. You know, lots of raisins.
This is one you're going to find
lots-
something like as you drink this, you're just going to find more and more
This is
things.
one you just
Yeah.
want to have a nose. I've not tasted it yet. Let it sit longer.
I couldn't wait that
Definitely
long.
this one.
I'm too.
He didn't
I'm
have-
like, no, I'm drinking this. As soon as I smelled it, I wanted to drink it. Dark
Yeah,
chocolate.
we're going to do
So,
that.
well, there you go.
You know, I could talk for hours about this. Anyway, I know
There you
we've got limited
Oh,
time.
no, you got dark chocolate.
But yeah, dark
With this.
chocolate. But
You
for
got
this one, I was going to say, this is what makes, I love wine as well, I have to
Mm.
say. And for me, this is like the DRC of the whiskey world, which is Demandela Romanée-Conti, which is my favorite Burgundy in the world. And Burgundy wine for me just has such a wonderful velvety
Very good.
texture, very warming. It just is so deep, so rich, so long, everything, you know, it just caresses your palate with depth. And this 18-year-old does that as well. So you can disagree, those who are watching at the moment.
You can
take
disagree,
time,
but
or you can agree.
the stairs are right over there and it leads right outside if you would like to disagree.
But it just keeps getting richer. The more you heat it in your hand,
Yeah,
the
no,
richer
it's-
it gets. So this is a great
doesn't
one
stop.
by the fireside. You know, it's still pretty cold out there, isn't it? It's
It's the nicest day we've had probably
Do you
for
know-
like, I don't know. I can't even remember.
forever.
I can't even remember that far back.
Well, I think the moment I landed yesterday, the weather was better, you know? Because I was worrying last week.
Thank you. I meant to thank you for that. I meant to thank you. Thank you very much.
Heat wave in Scotland. Last week it was like 10 degrees Celsius or 13
Yeah.
Celsius. And then came here and it's like, whoa, I brought it with me.
There you go.
But yeah, there we
We'll
go.
take that
Oh,
anytime you
so
want to
good.
come and bring
No,
that.
dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
I think I'm going to save this for
You gonna
after
save it?
we're finished
All right.
because I'm really going to take my time.
All right. Johnny,
Is it
what was
so
the
good?
next? What's the next two you gave us?
Mm.
What's those on the right? Okay.
I can just give me a moment, right?
Yeah. No. Take your time. Take your time. We get nothing but time.
You see why this one just makes me want to close my eyes. I think because I'm imagining being in the warehouse. I think I'm in warehouse number 2.
Okay.
Which is our Dunnage warehouse, which has got the most earthy character to it. It just almost makes me want to go into a cocoon, you know? It's like a hug, or as we would say in Scotland, a boozy. Have you heard that?
No, I don't think I know that one.
Boozy.
A boozy?
A boozy.
Boozy. Okay.
Give your whiskey a boozy. It's
Okay.
like
A
giving-
hug.
That's probably like
All
giving
right.
your glass a hug, but also it gives you a hug back.
That's even better.
It gives you a hug back. It's a reciprocal bosy. And the 18-year-old is the maximum.
What's the ABV
Boozy.
on that one, Johnny?
46.
Well, I should know. So I should just ask.
46%.
I should have just asked the source, but I.
But it's
I didn't wanna
just
bother.
such a hug, isn't it? It's like
It's
it's a
beautiful.
cloak. It's like you've got this wonderful warm cloak and you just wrap it all around you. And just, That's why I need a moment afterwards.
Yeah, I got it. Totally understand.
Okay, so we moved from the Ben to the Glen.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go to the sea.
To the sea.
And I just was so lucky because Dan took me to the coastline yesterday, out to Marblehead and all
Yeah.
along there. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is like being, you know, in Sandown Bay, you know. I've heard there's lots more beaches that are just more like Sandown Bay, but absolutely the smell, the freshness of the air, that just kind of pause that you just want to stop and breathe. Just stop everything Forget everything. Forget all your troubles. Forget what your business is about. You just want to go, oh, breathe in that fulfilling abundance of nature
It's
and everything
gorgeous.
that is fully present in that moment. It's
Right.
almost like past is history, future is a mystery, and today is a gift. That's why they call it the present. And for me,
Nice.
that is why this is Glenglassaugh for me, because Glenglassaugh up in the north coast, it's got the best surf in Scotland. It's where I learned to surf. It's in this beautiful bay. We have amazing fishing as well, along at Port Soy, which is our pizza expression. And yeah, it's the best. It's the best place. It's just so wonderful to be able to live by the coast, you know? I just could
Absolutely.
never live inland.
Well,
Personally,
in Scotland, you have it pretty good because you're
we
no more than
do.
60 miles from the coast anywhere you
Um,
go.
well, this is why, you know,
Yeah.
these
I
big
mean,
distilleries
yeah.
are literally like 20, 25 miles
Right.
between Glendronach to Glenglassaugh. So we've just gone north, up to the coast. And then from Glenglassaugh across to Benriach is like another, you know, 25, 30 miles. And then, you know, because of the triangle,
Right.
it's the Trinity, as I call them, is more like about 45 to 50 miles from
Okay.
Benriach. It's the long bit. No,
Yeah.
I can't remember what that's called.
I don't
Math.
know.
But anyway,
You got me. I don't know. What about that?
there'll be a mathematician in the
We'll
room
have them.
somewhere
Yeah. Yeah.
that will
Sure,
know.
there is.
So with Glenglassaugh, so we've got the first one here.
Can I say I love the rebrand?
Oh, thank you.
I just love it. I love the bottle. The bottle itself reminds me. I grew up on Matunic Beach in Rhode Island, and when I saw the bottle, I was just like, "That's exactly how the sand and the waves look. The sand looks as the waves go back out. It reminded me of that, which
Yeah.
I thought was odd for a bottle to do, but it did. I just said like, that to me looks like the ocean, what I pictured the ocean to look like,
Beautiful,
right?
beautiful. And I love that you say that because it's the whole experience, isn't it? You know, the taste is the most important thing, of course. But when you buy a bottle of whiskey, you know, you want to admire it. You know, it's beautiful. You know, you want to make the
I don't
connection
drink the
with it.
bottle, but it
You
it
it's
is
to make
supposed
your
to
first
set the mood.
connection. It's your first
Yeah,
connection if you've not tasted
yeah.
it before. So it sets the expectations, and you think of the sea when you see it. You see the beautiful teal cork that's like the sea glass, that you get on the beach. You see the emblem there with the two G's. It looks very nautical. You know, it looks like you're out in a boat. And
Those are great.
then, you know, yeah, what more can I say? Let's taste it. So this is our core whiskey. This is the 12 years old expression, which we were only able to do just a couple of years ago when we released this in 2023, because we didn't have 12-year-old before then. There was a huge gap between 1986 and 2008 into 9. At the moment, we've got an even bigger gap from 1978 right through to 2009. And we were able to the first time release a 12 years old. So this was a momentous occasion. We also have the Sand End and Port Soy expressions as well, which is probably other one of these.
What's the other one?
So
What's
we
sorry?
have the 12-year-old and we have the
What
Port
soy?
Soy. So we're getting to try the 12 years old, which for me is like sitting on the beach in the afternoon, you know, mellowing out to the sun, just starting to get to dusk, and you know, just having that wonderful sea air. So let's see if you find this. The 12-year-old this is 45%. You'll find with Glenglassaugh our strengths are a little bit higher, but they have the texture of the wonderful,
Wow.
luscious waves of flavor that can carry the higher strength. And they also have the salinity as well.
There's a creaminess to this
Yeah,
too.
now the beauty of Glenglassaugh is there's no other distillery like it. It means Valley of the Sea. I say this, I've got three sons, and my Alexander's like Glendronach, Fergus is like Benriach, and Douglas is like Glenglassaugh. It's got glass in the middle. And Glenglassaugh, my interpretation of it, because I know what Douglas means, is Valley of the Sea or Valley of the Ocean.
Okay.
And this is so, so true because it's really enclosed in that bay and you really detect the ocean, but in the most luxurious and luscious way ever. Sir, there's a question.
Yes. Revival. Yeah. I think it was. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it was around 2000, 2009, 2010.
so different than anything else that was, even though it was young, even though it had these sort of poignant sugars and almost this, to me, almost like a strawberry note. And I guess my question is same distillate going forward in time?
Same distillate as
The survival, yes,
revival.
pretty much. Now I've fine-tuned the recipe to create a very harmonious recipe that I think is very true to the location. Revival had a very high percentage of red wine cask, which is why it was like bruised strawberry.
Yeah, you had that strawberry note.
Exactly. Whereas with the 12-year-old being our flagship, you know, we want it to be that harmonious character, you know, between the flora of the area. So if you go to Glenglassaugh, we have almost this sea of yellow that you see from the distillery, which is gorse, which is like coconut or cocoa butter. And somehow you get this character in the whiskey. We have obviously right by the sea. You couldn't get any closer to the sea without actually being in the sea, right? So hopefully there won't be coastal erosion in the future. I don't think so. I don't think it's something that has happened actually in, around the distillery at all. And we've got the best surf in Scotland as well. So there's a surf school there. So the water is very cold, a bit like here, but you can dip in the sea, go for a surf. And we have the highest mineral content of any water in Scotland. So I used to work for a distillery that almost claimed that, but we've got double the number of minerals.
Double minerals.
Yeah, double concentration. I've done the analysis. And that's because we have serpentine marble and limestone in the area. It was carved out by the Ice Age. As well. I love that connection as well. Glenglassaugh, glacier. You know, it's all connects. It all connects. And that minerality gives us one of the most estery spirits that we have. So very, 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 very fruity. Even off the still.
The finish is
tropical,
like, tropical,
tutti frutti, pineapple, grapefruit, mango, cherries. By 12 years old, it softens a bit into apricot and figs, so you get that more.
Is it more predominant on like the new make?
Yeah, so the Sand End, which Sand End is our won the Whiskey Advocates World Whiskey of the Year when it was launched. So out of all the whiskies in the world, Sand End won it. Did you hear this?
Yeah, we heard it a couple of times. Yeah, we sold out a couple of times. Yes,
sold out a couple of times, and people are keeping on buying it. They're loving it, and it's my summer dram because I love. It reminds me of being a child on the beach, having an ice cream with salted caramel and tropical fruit sundae and syrup and all that gooey, great stuff. It's just so delicious. And 12-year-olds kind of like it takes that to the next level in being.
I actually like the 12. I hadn't had the 12.
Yeah,
I hadn't had the 12. I had this. I had the Sandin. I tried that. I loved it, and I hadn't had the 12. And I finally got to try it, and I was like, I know the accolades are going to Sandin, but I'm just like, geez, if this is available all the time, I don't have to fight somebody to get the Sandin. This has got some great.
It's beautiful.
Flavors.
It's a little bit more mellow than the Sand End. So Sand End's like you're going for it. You're out on that surfboard. It's very wild. You know,
it's a greeting on the edge of a sledgehammer.
But it's it's very awakening.
Right.
Is Sand End. Not to say it's a breakfast whiskey, but it wakes you up. And then with the 12-year-old, it's like you're kind of mellowing out, but you're still got the ocean and the surf, and it's like the sun is setting and it's getting very beautiful, and it's a bit more mellow in the afternoon. And you've been out, you've been playing volleyball on the beach or whatever all day, and you're like, oh, I'm just going to mellow out now, but you're still by the beach.
Exactly. I love this one. What do you guys think of this one?
This one reminds me of Italy because I get pistachio. I get this wonderful pistachio ice cream in this. So. With the tropical, of course.
I get a little creaminess in this too. It's really nice. Sandin ice cream. No.
Unfortunately, it didn't travel very well in my suitcase.
Yeah.
I would have needed a little refrigerated suitcase, I think, for the purpose. But we do have our local Portsoy ice cream shop does Sand End ice cream.
Nice.
You know all about this. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. Because we do a boat festival every year in June, called the Portsoy Boat Festival. Port soy is our peated expression, which we're going to move on to next, I think.
Yeah.
But it's just along the coast from Sandend. Sandend is great for surfing, and it's quite shallow, and then it goes deep. Port soy, you're in the harbour, and you go straight into the depths of the ocean.
Okay.
You know,
The
and
big
that's what
drop off. The big drop off.
can experience next. But just for a moment, the 12-year-old, you're mellowing out on the beach, or you're just, it's got that mellow, it's almost sultry. It's got an almost sultry feel to it,
really
when
good.
you're obviously at Glenglassaugh, but also you could be on a tropical beach, which is amazing. And then that's what amazes people. And I think, the reason it closed for 20 something years was because the blenders back then, when it was before single malt was really growing in the 1980s.
Yeah, people don't realize it's not that long ago that single malt really came on the scene.
Yeah, 1980s. Before then, it was blends,
Right.
that were sold across the
Right.
world.
Exactly.
And which were made from, like blends are today, like 40 different malts. And you had to be able to back then swap different malts because distilleries open and close, of course. And they couldn't find anything to replace it. It was nothing like Glenglassaugh. It was so different from every other distillery. They didn't know what to do with it. They tried to change it to make it more like Glenrothes is.
Really?
Yeah, back in the 80s. And
Really?
it just wasn't for changing, and it just shows you how much bigger nature is than anything a human being can do, because it's the influence of nature that makes this so distinctive.
Really nice.
Yeah.
And then I got the port soy, and I'm like, holy.
No,
mackerel.
you're holy mackerel.
Yeah,
Yes, mackerel. Mackerel is a word.
Yeah.
Maybe some lobster.
Yeah. Oh
What
my
else
God!
are
But the
we-
nose
what
on
else
this
are
is
we
like,
catching? What else are we catching? Baba fair.
which one? Port soy is like
Oh,
All right, you're gonna be so mad at me when I say this, but this has that and it's not a bad thing. Trust me, it's not a bad thing. On the back nose of this, it has a little bit of that chloroseptic. Some of you may know that it was for when you had a sore throat, you use like chloroseptic, and sometimes I get that sort of same flavor with a lot of.
I don't think I know that, but anyway.
Yeah, but it's that little bit of almost like it's sort of in between menthol between menthol and eucalyptus.
Yeah, you get the mentholic character, and that's from the ocean. It's like you're standing at the ocean, you almost get that mentholic character of the ocean, don't you?
Delicious.
And then, port soy, as I said, port soy is the port, obviously, the harbour, and soy is named after a fish, an oily fish. So
Mackerel, like a mackerel.
Mackerel.
Sure.
So oily fish, and we have a lot of oily fish in and around Port Soy, and it's really it's like soy is like from Shoish, which is the Gaelic name. But I find it remarkable because a lot of the microflora in the air above the sea is very, very similar to the microflora you also get in the sea and in Asia that is used for fermenting soy. Isn't that
Really?
amazing?
That's like
Blows my
how
mind.
it's so connected, right?
It blows
Yeah,
my mind
really.
because this is amazing with sushi, sashimi, and with soy.
Hmm.
So if you enjoy seafood, sushi, sashimi, and you enjoy soy,
John, we're gonna get some.
you've got
Go
to
next door
try
and
it.
get us.
You've got to try it.
You know
got
what?
to try it.
Challenge accepted. I will be doing that.
Even on the
It's really
palate,
nice.
the umami,
I love this one.
Umami comes through. The salinity on the sides of your palate and on the tips of your lips. It's almost kissed by the ocean.
So what does that mean though? Because we know there's no salt in there, but it mimics that same sort of taste that we would get if we had salt, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's doing that?
There's no sodium chloride in there.
Right.
Absolutely. But
there is something that's making it taste like that, which triggers the same reaction in our palate, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's the influence of the sea air on the fermentation and on the maturation and what it releases. There is that mentholic character. So it's more of, I suppose, the aromas that you get by the sea, which are mentholic, that are going to give you that sense.
Yeah.
But on the palate, boy, that's a big. I mean, my
This
goodness.
may be. This is the first time I'm having this. This may be my new favorite.
I need to go back to the beach with that lobster roll that I had yesterday. Thanks, Dan. Amazing.
Don, where'd
lobster
you
roll.
take it for
sorry.
where'd you take it for a lobster roll?
I had a great lobster roll.
He won't tell.
was on the
He's like
seafront.
making it secret.
It was
now.
on the seafront, and it was a really sweet, kind of almost like crystallized roll with a lobster in it. And I was like, oh my God.
There's nothing like
But I
a
didn't
New
have lots of
England,
port soy.
right?
And that would have been the perfect.
That would have been perfect.
sitting at the beach.
What the hell's wrong with you? Why didn't you have that done? Or put soy into
That is
oysters.
amazing. I don't love oysters as much as I love lobster. I must admit.
Well, you know
I
what you can do.
like oysters,
You know what you
but they
can
don't
do.
like me. Oysters don't like me.
You know,
Lobsters like me though. You know.
but you know, you steam lobsters. So one of the things that sort of happens a lot is we put whiskey in the steam water.
Well, have you
And
done
you
that?
can do
with
no,
pork soy?
not now. Now I'm going to.
I mean, what else could you do?
I don't
with,
know.
You know.
And I can drink it too, which is even better.
You can drink it. It has the taste of the sea. It has all that fermented
It's
soy.
so good.
It has the texture. You know, it's just
Wow.
like you're swimming deep in the deep blue sea.
I'm blown away
catching
by this
fish
one.
For your tea,
I like it.
as we say.
Catfish in my tea. What was that?
You're catching fish for your
Oh,
tea.
catfish in my tea.
Down at the deep bottom
Oh,
of the
a
deep, blue sea.
sea.
Catching fish for your tea. That's port soy.
I like that.
Yeah. And I haven't even talked about the casks. So with Sand End, it's bourbon and Manzanilla. We haven't tried
Yep.
that today, but the Manzanilla was my little twist on things. One
Okay.
whiskey of the year. So I like to do these things
Yeah.
when I think it's going to make it great. And then the 12-year-old is bourbon sherry and some of that red wine, coastal red wine as well, but not so much that makes it like blue strawberry, as you mentioned, for revival. So enough that it makes it a
Like that
lot
one?
more complex and intense. And then port soy is in synchronicity. Port soy is sherry, bourbon, and port casks.
Yes. And that
So-
little bit of peat really, again, it sort of brings it all together. It heightens those other flavors.
It does, and you know the salinity does that as well. You know, it's like if anybody's a cook or obviously
Yeah.
steaming your lobsters, when you have these, salt does that to flavor, doesn't it? It just
Right.
brings out even more of the flavor.
Bumps it up.
It brings out even more of the flavor,
Yeah.
and that's why for me, Glenglassaugh is like it just blows my mind every time because it like brings out so much of the tropical. It brings out all these flavors because it has that unique
Fantastic.
salinity, and then there's increased esterification from being in wooden washbacks right by the sea, from maturing right by the sea, and every drop of Glenglassaugh matures by Sand Bay. And I don't know of any other distillery that can say that. I'm waiting for somebody to challenge me.
Who's going to challenge you? Who's foolish enough? Who's foolish enough to challenge you?
Because a lot of coastal distilleries do ship a lot of their tankers of spirit to the mainland and mature there. So
Oh, that's true.
yeah,
That's true.
So that's kind of why I'm making the point that it's so
Yeah.
rare, so unusual.
It is rare.
So
This
we
is
have
a-
more warehouses. We built
Right.
more warehouses in Glenglassaugh. So
I like it. All right, Johnny, what did you give me now? What's this? Oh,
ooh, we have
Benriach.
a single cask. Wow, here we go.
that's from Germany.
Well, we do single casks for the whole world. Not that many. So, they don't tend to. This one is how old? 12 years old. So this was from a little while.
It's pretty dark.
This was bottled in 2020, actually. So this is quite exceptional. But every year for Benriach, probably release about 15 to 20 casks in total for the whole world, and obviously some do come to America, so we will have some here for people to buy. But this is a great example of how different Benriach is in a sherry cask compared to Glendronach, for example, because it is 12 years old. So we had Glendronach 12.
Yeah.
With the Pedro ethanol raw. So it was at a lower strength, obviously 43% alcohol, whereas this is 12 years old and up at 60.5%. So it is a different beast. It's not a fair comparison. And it's also a very different distillery.
Wow.
This is also our peated expression. So take care. Remember I said that every year we do peated campaign. And this is the opportunity, as I mentioned, for people to try the individual casks. So we do have one or two triple distilled. We have quite a few peated casks that people can try. So this is 100% peated at the high level peated. And this is peated Pedro Jimenez. Wow. There's not been many of these released actually. Peated Pedro Jimenez from Benriach from 2008.
On the nose, I get like cedar, grandma's attic type nose on this. It's really cool.
Oh my goodness. How rich is this for peated malt?
Really.
This really, I think, is a perfect example
Wow.
to anybody's nose. Correct
That's
me
an
if you're not
outstanding.
finding this. If you're not finding this, let me know. But this is a perfect example of the it's more sweetie than peaty mantra that I keep saying. It's more sweetie than peaty, especially in Pedro Jimenez. But smoked
Let's
stone
balance it out.
fruit,
It's got
cedar
like
wood,
barbecue. You talk about
maple
barbecue.
syrup. Oh my gosh, who doesn't love maple syrup? I love maple syrup.
I do.
Oh, I love
maple
maple
syrup.
syrup so
I had a
much.
friend that owns a sugar shack. I go up there all the time.
Oh, amazing. And people here love their maple syrup, don't they?
We barrel aged some of our maple syrup here.
Amazing. Does that not remind you of that?
Yeah, it's got that.
So
It's
it
got
just
that
shows
cedar.
you
It's got everything.
how the sweetness, the cedar as well. So just remember I said about the pine woodlands, the freshness of Speyside, our
Wow.
beautiful location in the sweet spot of Speyside, how this brings out this incredible sweetness. The maple syrup.
Wow.
Oh, smoked candy. So much going on in here.
Can you ask a water
We could
question?
add some water to this if you wish.
Drop it to a water. Yeah. This last one I would have.
And this.
This one I would have definitely put a drop of
Yeah, I
water.
would
You want to taste?
Yeah,
some
I would say
different stuff.
Glenglassaugh is good with water.
Yeah.
It's Valley of the Water of Life.
Yeah.
It loves water.
May I
loves
suggest
water. It
the official sponsor of
Icelandic water.
Icelandic water. Put in there.
Yeah. I
We
would
have some.
say we don't have that whiskey to taste right now, but the Sanden for me works really well with a drop of this Icelandic water or definitely mineral water with Sanden.
One of the ones I use that I use more with American whiskey that's sort of fun is I make Perrier water go flat and use that. Get a mineral water because we don't have too many still mineral waters.
Oh, interesting.
So I let it go flat and use that. That's another one that I like when I use water at home.
Yeah.
That's another one that's sort of nice. Brings out some nice
Interesting.
flavor, the minerality.
Yeah, it does. We've got quite a lot in Scotland.
Yeah. We don't really mineral water is usually usually we get it here at sparkling.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's always have a little taste and a little nose neat, and then you can decide what you want to do with it because it's in your glass.
I'm going for drinking it. I don't know about everybody else here.
Oh my
I'm going
gosh,
for drinking
just the maple syrup. I just can't
absolutely
get away from the maple syrup
it. Beautiful.
in this. And and this is PX sherry cask. And how can a PX peated Benriach give you maple syrup?
It does.
But
I think
does.
it's
How
the
can that
combination
be?
of that sweetness with the peat.
The stone fruit. I mean, it's all going on in here. Incredible. This for me, baked apple.
Really nice.
This is definitely one when you've got your toffee apples and it's not Hogmanay, Halloween.
Halloween.
This would be amazing
you
Halloween
go.
whiskey. Oh my goodness.
Great
Can you
stuff.
imagine that? All that candy and toffee and maple syrup.
Real candy,
baked
not
apples.
your candy corn.
What do you have here, Halloween? What sort of candy do you have here?
Everything.
Everything.
Everything. I mean, it's like a candy cornucopia.
This is a peated. This is a smoky candied. Oh, can't say it now. Smoky candy cornucopia.
There you go.
I got to write that down. Smoky. Go and say it again.
Smoky candy
cornucopia. Cheers to a
Cheers.
smoky
Thanks.
candy cornucopia.
It's got that mint, little bit of it's coming from that sort of cedar. There's sort of a cedar.
This is that, and this is what I love about Benriach is, you're climbing that ben. Whatever you're doing, you're climbing that ben because you're getting that wonderful freshness and clarity in the air that you have here at the moment in Boston.
Yeah.
You have when you're climbing the hills, you're climbing the ben. You get that clarity, don't you?
Yeah.
There is that wonderful delicacy, but boy, have you got fountains of flavor.
Nice. Beautiful.
The smoky fountain candy cornucopia. There you go.
I like how you got that out. Smoky candy cornucopia.
There you go. I
There you
didn't.
go.
I put fountain in the middle, so I made it easier.
All right.
I can drink this neat because it's 60.5%.
Yeah.
But it hasn't got the heat, the texture, the sweetness, and the texture of the smoke, actually, like a wonderful sweet and smoky barbecue.
I used
It's
this
just
yesterday, but it
incredible.
definitely applies to this. It stokes the fire, but
Mm,
doesn't choke the chimney.
I love that.
You know what I mean? You start to get
Stokes
that
the
nice
fire.
warm feeling drinking this, but it's not overwhelming. It doesn't sort of come back on you where you're coughing or feeling that burn up in your throat.
So
Stuff like that. Really
sweet.
nice.
Who doesn't love peat when you have this? I mean, really.
You like the peat, Frank? Yeah, actually, he likes the peat. Sooner or later,
This
we'll
one
make
is not
Frank like peat.
medicinal
Yeah,
here.
it's not
It's
medicinal.
not
No, not at
medicinal
all. Not
at all.
Delicious.
There's no seagull's armpits here.
Seagull's armpits. No, none of that. Listen, I want to thank you so much for coming by today and doing this to us today. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
I just want to say thank you to you, Ryan, first and foremost, for inviting me as well. It's an
Oh.
absolute pleasure to be here in Boston. This has been such a great interview. I've had so much fun, and thank you to
This
you
was
all
an
for
interview
being
that turned into a tasting, which is fine. I'm okay with that. But thank you so much for coming here. It's truly an honor for us to have you here today. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so
Ryan.
much. Thank you
And
everybody
cheers.
for joining us today.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Slanjva. Good
This'll-
health.
This will be actually, you know what? I'll do that for you. There we go. This will be on our podcast, where we get your podcast, so you can re-listen to it or get it right on Facebook Live. All right. You should have been here. It was awesome. Thank you so much. We'll stop the